Hello everybody and welcome to the CEM Year 5 Non-Verbal Reasoning lesson. This is Block 3, Week 4 and I'm Carly. We're going to be doing sequence question types today. So we're practicing answering series questions in non-verbal reasoning and applying techniques that we've already been taught to help to achieve the correct answer. So we did look at sequencing question types in block 1, and I want you to have a little think and perhaps write down in your jotters for a moment anything that you can remember about solving these kind of problems. So there's an example here. You've got 3 squares and a blank square at the end, and you've got to work out which of these options given fits best in place of the missing square. And in this example, the answer is B, because the square moves one place clockwise around the edge of the series square. Just have a little think, pause the video and jot down some ideas. What things help you when solving these problems? Okay, so hopefully you have had a little think about that, and let's have a look. One of the things that can help us is to establish a pattern. What can you see happening in the other 3 squares that are given to you? In this case, you can see the grey square is just moving slightly from the top middle to the top right, and then it goes down to the middle right. So it's going to then end up in the bottom right corner, which is why the answer is B. Look at one variable or figure at a time. You could draw part of the figure in the empty box. Which one do you think it would look like? That can sometimes help you visualize more clearly. And eliminate the incorrect answers. Now, this is something that's really important. For example, in this case, it can't possibly be A, can it? Because all the other squares are grey. So that's already narrowed our choice down to just 3 options. And then if you're looking at the pattern, you can see the square is simply moving along one place each time. So it wouldn't be C or D either. Let's have a quick go to give us a chance to practice. Pause the video and have a go at these 3 questions, thinking about patterns and perhaps drawing the pattern in the empty square. All right, how did we do? Let's have a look. So for question 8, the answer was A. That's because in each series square, the black circle is moving one place to the right. So you can see it starts in the middle, it's moved to the right, then effectively it's gone through that barrier between the squares to move one place to the right again, which means it's going to move one place to be back in the middle of the square. So that's a circle, but the cross moves anti-clockwise around the 4 corners of the square. That's what we mean by looking at one variable at a time. So start by looking at the circle, think about where that's got to be, and then have a look at the cross and ascertain what that's doing as well. Number 9, this was A. This is because the square moves clockwise around the 4 corners of the series square, and the black line inside the square moves one place over to the right. So the square is just moving around the box. And number 10, fairly straightforward one here. This is B. The row of 3 shapes is moving down one place. So we know it's got to be at the bottom. So in terms of elimination, we can get rid of C as a choice. And the black triangle is swapping places each time. And what it's doing is moving one place to the left. So hopefully you can see those options. It's really important to remember spans Ross when we're completing any non-verbal reasoning question type. This stands for shape, position, angle, number, size, symmetry, rotation, overlapping, and shading. You should hopefully have this in your dotters from block 1, but if you don't, perhaps if you weren't here with us in block 1, pause the video again now and write this down in your dotters, because this is so important to keep in your mind when you're doing any non-verbal reasoning question type. Sequence questions often involve looking at number and position. So very often, 2 or more of these will come into play for any one question type. And as was just said, sequence questions can involve looking at number and position. So you might be looking at the number of shapes that there are in a box and the position that they're in. And that's what we were just looking at with these 3 taster questions here. There are 2 shapes in the first one, for example, and we were looking at the position of the circle and the cross. We had to look at the position of the square and the line within it for question 9. And for number 10, we can see we've got 3 shapes, so that's number. And we had to look at the position that they were all moving in and the position of the black triangle. So number and position are key elements in sequence question types. Counting the number of shapes or identifying a number pattern with the figures is really important. So that's spans Ross. And we're going to hopefully use it to help us complete these question types. So you're going to have a go now at the timed tests in your book, starting off with pages 22 and 23. So this is section 1, complete the series. Work out which of the options best fits in place of the missing square. Now the answer in this case is D. And I want you to just think and write down, why is D the correct answer? Looking at the number of shapes that you have and the position of them. Okay, so hopefully you have noticed that the black shaded shape was moving along one place each time from right to left. You're going to have a go now at pages 22 and 23. So if you pause the video now and give it a go. Okay, everyone, I'm going to go through the answers with you for that section. That's section 1 on pages 22 and 23. So number 1, this was C. Now there are 2 eliminations you could make straight away. B, because all the other squares are black. And also D, because it's got an extra black square, which doesn't seem necessary. So straight away, by using elimination, you've narrowed down your choices to only 2 options. And the answer was C, because the square rotates 90 degrees clockwise in each series. So clockwise is the direction that the hands on a clock go in. Number 2 was C, and this is because each time the shapes are reflecting. If you think about the division lines between the boxes as mirror lines, the shapes are reflecting there. Number 3, this was C, and this is because all of the circles are moving up 1 row in each series square. So if you look at 1 circle at a time, for example, if you look at the white one, you can see it starts second from the bottom, then it moves 1 up, then it moves 1 up again. So it's going to be at the top this time, isn't it? And then you look at the position of the other circles in relation to that and figure out where it could be. So for, again, using elimination, if we know that the white circle needs to be at the top, we can get rid of B and D as options. And again, then we're only left with 2 choices to look at. It hasn't changed sides, it's stayed on the right, so A wouldn't be it either. And of course, the other shapes are not in the correct position. Number 4, now this is a cube. The option is A here. This is because it turns one face to the left in each series square. So all that cube is doing, just looking to see if I have anything cube shaped to show you. The cube is just turning, rotating to the left in each series square. So the front cube face becomes the left-hand cube face, and a new one appears at the front. This means if you look at the first image, you've got the stripy cube face at the front. That then is on the left in the next box as the cube has been turned, and we have a black circle on the cube face. So what you need to be looking for, and there's only one choice, is for a cube with a black circle on the left, and that was option A. 5 was option A as well. This is because in each square, the grey square in the previous one becomes white, and one of the black squares becomes grey. So you can see they're decreasing in number. Number 6 was C. The squares in this series are in 2 pairs. In each pair, the whole figure rotates 90 degrees and the rectangle and arrow swap shadings. And number 7 was B. You can see the circle was increasing in size. So here we have the number of shapes. So we've got number, we've got shape, we've got size. We've also got shading. That's quite a few things to think about from Spans Ross there. The circle gets bigger and its colour alternates between black and white. So we knew it had to be a black circle, which meant it couldn't possibly be C. And it couldn't be D because it wasn't going to be quite as big as the white circle at the end. Therefore, if we were just even looking at the circle, really it can only be B because that's the next one in size. And also the star gets an extra point in each square. Then with number 8, it was B. The hatching shading is rotating 45 degrees anti-clockwise, so the opposite way that a clock turns, and the raindrop rotates 90 degrees anti-clockwise. Number 9, the 2-headed arrow rotates 90 degrees in each square, and the line with the circles rotates 45 degrees. So they end up being on top of each other. And number 10, this was A. The top white dot is moving one place along. So if you look, it starts in the top left corner, then it moves to the one next to it. So then it needs to be in the 3rd place along. The bottom white dot is moving one place to the left in each series square. So they're just alternating places. Okay, this time for pages 50 to 51, you're going to focus more specifically on timing. You're going to have approximately 20 seconds to answer each of the next set of 10 questions. If you find a question tricky, it is best to move on to the next one rather than spend too much time on it. So what I'm going to do now is actually I'm going to leave the video running with the timer on, and I want you to try and complete these 10 questions in that time period. Don't worry too much if it does take you a bit longer, but we just want to give you an indication of how long it takes you to work out some of these question types. So I will set the timer now and have a go at answering those questions. Oh, that's my pen. That's not what I want. Okay, let's give it a go. Just over 1 minute left. 1 minute and 10 seconds. Thirty seconds. And well done, everybody. I wanted to do that in real time, just to give you an idea of how long that time period actually is. Obviously, if you do need a bit more time, that's absolutely fine. Pause the video here and finish off your questions. But hopefully with the series question types, they shouldn't take you too long and you can start to see the patterns. So we're going to go through those answers to those questions now. This was pages 50 to 51. I'll just get rid of the shade actually. So one was A. Nice straightforward one. Look, an extra triangle is added diagonally below the original one in the previous square. And they're alternating colours too. Number two, you can see that makes a pattern. So you needed to have the white shading going from top left to bottom right in that direction. And the arrow shading needed to be white. It's not as clear on the screen as hopefully it is in your book, but they're alternating between white and grey shaded arrows, which is why the answer was D. 3B, the large hexagon is reflecting across in each series square. The circle moves half a side anti-clockwise around the square, and that's alternating between the square's sides and corners. So it starts off in the middle of the top side, then it goes to the left corner, then the middle of the left side. So it will be on the bottom left corner. And that was the only option it could have been with B. And number 4, this at first glance might look a little bit more complicated, but actually all that's happening is in each series square, there is an extra triangle. That's all. So you can see you've got 3 triangles, 4 triangles, and 5 triangles. So it doesn't necessarily matter about the position of the lines, but you're just getting an extra triangle. Moving on to 5 to 7. 5 was C. Now what's happening here is that little white circle segment is rotating just a little 45 degrees anti-clockwise around the black dot. The grey shape reflects along the side that is furthest clockwise around the edge of the series square. But really there was only one option that it could have been based on the white circle segment being in the correct place. With C, you can see the solid line is rotating, and that's going 90 degrees anti-clockwise. That's a quarter turn. The dotted line is rotating the other way, a quarter turn, 90 degrees clockwise around the centre of the square. 7 was B. The shading moves to the outside of the next cylinder, going up diagonally to the right. And to finish off with your last 3 questions, 8 was B. The box shape is swapping positions. So we know it had to be facing the same way as this one, which means it couldn't be C or D. So straight away, that's nice. We've only got 2 options to look at. And it's gaining an extra line on the front face. So that's why it had to be B, because A has the same amount of lines as the second one. 9, this was A. The star loses 1 point as it moves along the series, and 1 more point becomes black. So if you count the number of points from right to left, this one would have to have 1 more point in, and 1 more point was becoming black from left to right. So you'd have to have 2 black points. Number 10, this was D. And here we have another series where the squares are 2 pairs. In each pair, the bottom inner shape disappears and the arrows reverse direction. And the colours of the figure swap between black and white. And that brings us to the end of our lesson. Hope that has been helpful for you. You can have further practice with sequence types in your home learning this week, which is in your printed worksheet book. And you're going to be doing some timed tests on sequences and grids as well. You could also practice completing sequences in your practice and pass book. So if you have time, it's always really useful to have that extra practice. Well done, everybody. Thank you for watching, and we will see you next time. Bye for now.